We begin with legal matters, where lawyers to the PDP presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, have asked the Code of Conduct Bureau, the CCB, to drop its investigation into the petition brought against their client by the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo. In a letter written to the Bureau, the Chief Counsel, Mr. Mike Ozekome, notes that the matter is sub judice, as Mr. Keyamo had filed the same matter at the Federal High Court in Abuja. It says it is highly inappropriate for a party to a suit to take any extrajudicial steps or to embark on any course of action that is either tantamount to or calculated to undermine the authority and integrity of the court. He urges the Bureau to refrain from interfering in the subject matter of Mr. Keyamo's petition and to advise and direct him to pursue his pending litigation against Mr. Atiku Abubakar to its logical conclusion. Following a complaint made against Mr. Atiku by Mr. Keyamo alleging fraud against the former vice president, the CCB had invited Mr. Keyamo to provide additional information that might be material to its investigation. Governor Joe Idiri and Senator Samuel Anyanwu have emerged winners of the People's Democratic Party governorship primaries in Bayelsa and Edo States, respectively. Both aspirants emerged candidates at their state capitals, where the exercise took place after they were affirmed by the delegates having gone into the election unopposed.
Delegates of the People's Democratic Party in Bayelsa and Edo States converge on their different capitals to choose a standard bearer at the primaries ahead of the November governorship elections. Where delegates are seated according to their local government areas before proceeding commences in an exercise to affirm a consensus candidate as monitored by a 7-man electoral panel constituted by the party's National Working Committee. The former governor of the state, Mr. Emeka Hedioha, was absent at the primary. However, at the end of the exercise, the chairman of the electoral panel, Mr. Kenneth Okon, declares the PDP National Secretary, Senator Samuel Anyanwu, winner with 802 valid votes.
On behalf of other members of the panel, hereby declare the PDP Senator Samuel
After emerging victorious, Senator Anyanwu states his priority areas if elected governor.
For us to achieve and develop the state, there must be peace. First of all, have to secure the state. Our major point is to secure the state. To be able to revive the economy, we are going to invest in the youths, and we are going to carry along the people in our decision making. We cannot drive this process alone without carrying the people along.
A similar primary election is taking place here at the Dr. Gabriel Okara Cultural Center in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, where the incumbent governor, Senator Doye Diri, who is seeking re-election, is the sole aspirant, having been given the right of first refusal. Among those present is the chairman of the electoral panel and governor of Osun State, Senator Demola Adeleke, former governor Seriake Dixon, among others. As prescribed by law, delegates take turn to affirm the candidacy of Governor Doye Diri. After collation and counting, Governor Diri got the endorsement of 305 delegates to clinch the party's ticket.
As the Chief Returning Officer, I hereby declare Senator Doye Diri as the winner of the election.
And before proceeding to accept his nomination, this happens.
I do accept your nomination as the candidate of our great party, the People's Democratic Party, to contest the November 11th gubernatorial elections in Bayelsa State.
Now that the primaries is off their checklist, the next battle is at the polls, where the people will give their verdict in November.
The countdown is on for this Saturday's supplementary governorship elections in Adamawa and Kebbi states, as well as 5 senatorial districts, 31 federal and 58 state assembly constituencies across the country. Ahead of the elections in Adamawa State, the youth are demanding a peaceful process in the affected local government areas, while the Niger State Resident Electoral Commission in the North Central has been meeting with all stakeholders to ensure a hitch-free exercise.
The Independent National Electoral Commission is meeting political stakeholders and all security agents in Niger State ahead of Saturday's supplementary election in 4 local government areas of the state. While briefing the stakeholders at the Commission's conference hall in the state capital, the resident electoral commissioner says the supplementary election will be held in Agai, Agwara, Rafi, and Raju local government areas of the state. He's also seeking cooperation to address all loopholes before the exercise.
We have done a very good job, but we should also acknowledge where there are some pockets of problems here and there. We will also look at it critically and try to see how we can, if not eradicate it all, to minimize so that this supplementary election at the end of the day, it will be better off than the one that we did.
INEC also emphasizes the entire election results conducted on March 13th will be announced before the supplementary election results.
If you don't, by the time we get there, we'll still read out the result from each of the polling units concluded before we now had the one we are conducting on the 15th of April. By the grace of God, like the rec has said, we are fully prepared and we want it to be better than even the general election.
The State Police Command also assures of security during and after the election.
We assure you we will be on ground with you. We will support you. We will cover up and make sure it's a very successful by its grace. We will not leave any stone unturned. It is as usual, it is a responsibility, and we are going to utilize it to the fullest. That I assure you, sir.
In Adamawa State, a group of concerned youths are appealing to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to ensure a seamless, credible, and violence-free governorship supplementary elections. The group is also appealing to residents to shun any form of religious or ethnic sentiments during the process.
Youth must understand the hope society places on them and resist any provocation to cause chaos before, during, and after the rerun election. Politicians, their supporters or followers, and youth should be orderly and avoid hate speech or spreading fake news either online or elsewhere. We urge security agents to be professional and neutral in the discharge of their duties.
The outcome of the supplementary elections in the affected states will determine who takes the seats of power.
In other legal matters, the All Progressives Congress in Kano State has filed a petition before the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, challenging the declaration of Abba Kabir of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) as winner of the March 18, 2023 governorship poll in the state. The APC says Mr. Kabir was not qualified to contest the election as his name was not on the list of members of the NNPP submitted to INEC. The APC also cited irregularities and violations of the electoral laws as part of the grounds for its petition. The party also alleged that the NNPP did not win the election with a majority of lawful votes, claiming that some of the votes cast for them were invalid. In addition, the APC accused the Kano Resident Electoral Commissioner of wrongly declaring Mr. Kabir the winner, stating that the margin of lead was not higher than the votes cancelled and that the election should have been declared inconclusive. It's asking the tribunal to declare Nasir Yusuf Gawuna of the APC as the winner of the election, but interestingly, the APC's governorship candidate was not joined as a party in the petition. In the March 18th poll, the NNPP candidate scored 1,019,602 votes to defeat his closest contender, Gawuna of the APC, who polled 890,705 votes. Ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, the coalition of APC support groups is advocating the need for the office of the President of the Senate to be zoned to the southeast. Addressing journalists in Abuja after submitting a letter of appeal to the National Working Committee of the party, the spokesperson of the group, Mr. Dele Fulani, says in the interest of equity and natural justice, zoning of the office of the President of the Senate to the southeast will promote politics of inclusivity and national cohesion. Civil society organizations have continued to weigh in on the outcome of the 2023 presidential election, while some are calling on the political parties to work together for national unity. Others want the president-elect to ensure that he delivers on his promises.
As Nigerians gear up for a new dispensation from May the 29th, 2023, this group, under the aegis of the natives, is asking candidates in the last presidential election to join hands with the president-elect, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to rebuild Nigeria. The group wants the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, as well as the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, to allow the courts prevail.
We call on our respected Excellency, Peter Obi, to please stay in the country. His talents, abilities are needed in this country. He doesn't need to depart this country. He doesn't need to escape from this country. We are hearing rumors that the PDP candidate is already on his route to Dubai. Whether he leaves or he has not left, please, your valuable contribution is needed in this country.
The same sentiments are echoed by the Arewa New Agenda Group, who claim that the flaws recorded in the 2023 general elections can be addressed in courts.
The 2023 presidential election has produced a winner of the election, and INEC, the electoral body that conducted the election, has declared and even issued a certificate of return to the declared winner, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Where then is the place for an interim government? The only option left for anyone aggrieved by the result of the election is to go to court.
When it comes to conversations around the calls for an interim government, as alleged by the Department of State Services, a coalition of civil society organizations believe such calls are capable of jeopardizing Nigeria's unity.
We wish to unequivocally condemn all advocacies for the establishment of interim government in Nigeria. 2, we condemn all utterances and unguarded statements promoted directly or through proxy by any politician or religious leader.
While appreciating the security agencies for sustaining peace and stability in Nigeria, these civil society organizations want politicians to call their supporters to order to reduce tension in the country.
In part 2, after the break, federal government moves to enhance security of rail transportation in the country, approves 495 million naira for installation of baggage scanners at Abuja and Kaduna stations. Please join us again. At the November governorship elections in Bayelsa and Edo States, Governor Doye Diri and Senator Samuel Anyanwu emerged PDP flag bearers in both states. The APC in Kano State asks Election Tribunal to declare the state governorship election inconclusive as it files its petition against the governor-elect Abba Kabir of the NNPP. A 7-story building under construction collapses in Banana Island in Lagos. The state government says few people injured but no fatalities in the disaster. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has nullified and set aside the ward and local government congresses purportedly conducted on February the 7th by the All Progressives Congress in Kogi State. Now, the Congress was for the purpose of nominating its governorship candidate for the November governorship election. Now, the court avoided the 2 congresses on the grounds that they were not conducted in compliance with the Electoral Act 2022 and the Constitution of the APC. Delivering judgment, Justice Omotosho also barred the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from according recognition to the unlawful delegates list that emanated from unlawful congresses for the party and for the purpose of selecting its governorship flag bearer. Justice Omotosho also ordered the APC leadership to conduct fresh congresses that would be in compliance with Section 84 of the Electoral Act 2022 and Section 13 of the party's constitution.
We are very glad, more so that the judgment was in our favor. The court granted all our reliefs, and the course of action basically is that the APC in Kogi State ought to have conducted special world congresses to elect delegates that will eventually elect the party's candidates for the governorship election, but none was conducted at all at any ward. And also this was that our clients approached the court to say, look, there was nothing, but they just saw a purported list submitted and that the list should be set aside. And the court granted it and even warned that the days of impunity, political impunity, are gone forever and it will not be tolerated, and advised the parties to go and conduct congresses prior to the nomination of their candidates. So we are so happy with the judgment. The implication is that, well, they still have time. Their Congress coming up maybe in 2 days' time. They should do the needful, comply with the judgment, hold a special Congress either today or tomorrow, and then before they proceed. Otherwise, any step taken will be nullified or will be a nullity.
A 7-story building under construction has collapsed in the Banana Island area of Lagos State this evening. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, nobody died in the incident, which occurred on 1st Avenue in the exclusive neighborhood. In a statement, the Deputy Director of Public Affairs of the Lagos State Government, Mukaila Sanusi, also confirmed that there is no fatality, but the few construction workers who sustained injuries are being treated. The statement adds that the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Tayo Bangbushe Martins, was immediately on site to address or to assess the situation and kick off the investigation into the incident.
Oh my God.
As part of its measures to enhance security of rail transportation, the Federal Executive Council has approved the provision and installation of baggage scanners at railway stations in Abuja and Kaduna at a cost of 495 million naira. The Minister of State for Transport, Mr. Ademola Adegunroye, stated this after the council meeting presided over by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The Minister of Works and Housing also announced a fresh contract for the maintenance of the third mainland bridge in Lagos at 6.2 billion naira. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Omezoke, reports.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, chairs the Federal Executive Council meeting on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari, who is in Saudi Arabia on an 8-day official trip. Approvals to advance the security of the nation's transport infrastructure were among critical considerations. At a briefing, the Minister of Works and Housing announced a 6.2 billion naira fresh contract for the maintenance of the third mainland bridge in Lagos.
This contract responds to the potholes that have become manifest on the entire pavement of the deck of the bridge, spanning 11 kilometers, and the interchanges, Adeniji Adele, Adekunle, and Bagada ramps that all link the bridge. This is for the resurfacing of all of that.
The lack of proper monitoring to forestall the persistent theft of infrastructural components on the bridges is one challenge the minister insists can be resolved.
It's one of my proposals today for consideration and recommendation to the next government is to move the Federal Road Safety Corps away from the SGF and let it become a parastatal supervised by the Ministry of Works, whoever that may be, so that there is a proper alignment of responsibility, because if you build the road, somebody has statutory responsibility to secure it. That person better report to the main organ instead of through a third and remote organization.
Another 495 million naira approved by the council is targeted at advancing the security of some of the nation's railway facilities.
We are starting the railway revolution. We are trying to put in place a lot of things in the railway. We don't want people to come and damage all that government has been trying to put in place in that sector. And so today, there was a memo before council for the provision of baggage scanners at railway stations. And the scanners cost 495 million naira.
A total of 42.3 billion naira is approved by the Federal Executive Council for the Ministries of Finance, Transportation, as well as Works and Housing. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, in Lagos State, the government appears to have another kind of challenge in its railway development drive, and that is dealing with the menace of traders on rail tracks. In this next report, our correspondent Kelly Agiga captures the danger many Lagos residents expose themselves to in a bid to make a living.
One common feature of rail tracks, especially here in Lagos, is the gathering of people at designated points or terminals for the purpose of trading, from Tejosho in Yaba to Oshodi, and from Oshodi to Ikeja Long, which is just opposite the Murtala Muhammad International Airport, and then to Agege. These traders brave the odds despite the risk and dangers. They trade in fairly used shoes, belts, bags, and clothes. Bus conductors are not let out of the party. They encroach on the rail tracks to woo passengers. And despite the hazards, the traders tell me this is their only source of survival.
Me, I be graduate, I go INT, Polytechnic. Since that time when I come out for school, do my HND, I never get work. And the kids, they say, how they want me to survive for this country.
They also present a list of demands, as well as allegations of compromise by government officials.
Most of women when we dey work for here will be widow. And Kai, they go just come. With no information, they go come destroy our market. Carry our market go. Maybe Baba help us do adjustment.
Tell our government to help us, to plead, to help us. If we cannot be here, we know here is delicate, but let us relocate us a place that we can stay and have rest of mind. Please, we country.
But in a swift response, the Corps Marshal for the Lagos Environmental Sanitation Corps counters the allegations. She also puts the blame on the tables of the railway police officers.
The Railway Corporation, they have not been supporting the agency. They have not been supporting the agency. Each time we come to arrest them, you see them coming to us and be soliciting for them that it is, they even say it's not our territory.
In 2008, former Lagos Governor Mr. Babatunde Fashola dislodged traders on the rail tracks at Oshodi. But now, they seem to be returned to status quo. Meanwhile, a lot more activities take place on the tracks. Some walk, beg, eat, and sleep on the tracks. And these children are learning fast, as they can be seen playing on the rail tracks. The managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Okiria, is worried about the menace.
We try to fight it, but the more you fight it, the more they come back. I can remember when I was the district manager at Lagos, I took it up as a responsibility that we are clearing them as they come back. You remove their wear, you remove their tables, and at the time they have a in-house carpenter as you are removing their making.
Let's capture what happens when a train approaches these areas where commercial activities take place as a warning. The train blares its horns, prompting the traders to reluctantly move their goods to safety. But take a look at just how close the distance is between the train and these traders. And when the train passes, it's back to business as usual. But let's give you a 3D illustration of the train's movement and nearness to human activities. This distance is just about 10 inches, and that's about 0.254 meters. According to railway officials, the traders are so daring at Oshodi, Agege, and Agbado as some stay as close as less than a meter from the train. Meanwhile, right-of-way of minimum 15 meters from the center of the track in section is the required international standard to be left with no human activities. It's a zone to be left virgin for safety reasons. In another illustration, for the standard gauge service, the design speed allowable from Lagos to Ibadan is 150 kilometers per hour, but that has been reduced to an operational speed of 80 kilometers per hour. And inside Lagos, due to massive human activities and proximity of the railway tracks, the speed has also been reduced to 30 kilometers per hour. NRC officials also say while approaching level crossings, it can be further reduced to 15 kilometers per hour. It is called the caution order. On the average, there are 10 train-related deaths in Nigeria annually. That's according to the NRC. But many think the figure is way higher. In South Africa, between April 1, 2018 and March 31 in 2019, nearly 300 people lost their lives after being hit by trains in SA's railway tracks. In Kenya, the country has seen a series of deadly train derailments. In 2019, 32 people were killed when a passenger train derailed.
So this right here is a picture of the society we have created over the years, a situation where men and women from different parts of the country come to Lagos on a daily basis just to make ends meet. There's the question as to whether this risks and danger of trading on the tracks is justifiable, but there is also the question of the failure of successive leadership and governments. But one also wonders, just when will abnormalities no longer be treated as normal? From the Oshodi area here in Lagos, Kelly Egiga reporting for Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Welcome back. To security, where the Kaduna State government says troops of the air components of Operation World Punch of the Nigerian Air Force have neutralized several bandits during an airstrike in Benin local government area of the state. The bandits were said to be attacking Sabunlay village around 9:44 a.m. today when they were engaged and neutralized by the troops who had rushed to the area following a distress call. According to the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, the bandits were seen rustling cattle, looting various items, and shooting sporadically, a situation which forced the residents to flee. The air component of Operation World Punch was said to have responded promptly to the location, and as the bandits fled for cover from the aircraft operation, they came on the line of fire from the troops. Let's head down to the nation's capital of Abuja, and Terry Ikumi is standing by at our Abuja studios. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Ayo. Let's still talk security now. As peace and security return to the northeastern part of the country, after over a decade of wanton killings, destructions, and displacement of inhabitants as a result of Boko Haram insurgency, victims and survivors continue to recount their experiences while the attacks lasted. Meanwhile, the government has been asked to review the implementation of the reintegration process to include release of persons said to be wrongly arrested and still in military detention centers.
Busy streets and residents going about their daily activities. This is evidence of safety returning to Borno State. For about a decade, these scenes were not commonplace. These people can gather with some level of comfort in the knowledge that they are safe enough to play and discuss the next phase of their lives.
To the government agencies that are present.
Now, participants include kidnapped victims, their family members, former Boko Haram members, and families of persons wrongly associated with Boko Haram insurgency. They gather here to review the effectiveness of a project with the theme mobilizing Borno State stakeholders to develop transitional justice and reconciliation policy recommendation in the Northeast, organized for government agencies, survivors, and actors in the Boko Haram insurgency. Everyone here has had one experience or the other with insurgency. 25-year-old Ubaida Usman and 50-year-old Hadiza Saleh narrate their experiences.
Without expectations, some people will take you away to a place you don't know. There are people you are not used to. If you don't agree with them, you will suffer the punishment. They took me away for about 4 years, and I have 2 children from them. I was married before they adopted me from my husband's house in Gawaza. We escaped the adopters camp to the military, who rescued us while on a routine patrol in the forest. They brought us and kept us in Giwa barracks for months.
I have 4 sons. One is Babagana Sali, who was picked up by the military on his way back from Monguno and accused of being a member of Boko Haram. Till this moment, I haven't seen him. Abba Sali, with a black spot on his forehead, is nowhere to be found. Musa, he left home at Hazaha and was arrested till today. The 3 of them I have not heard of their whereabouts. Usman, who is a mechanic, was arrested at his roadside workshop. This is 13 years since they were all arrested. Since that disappearance, I have been down with stroke paralysis. I have been in and out of the hospital.
In the midst of these harrowing experiences, Hamsatu Alamin emphasizes the need for transitional justice.
Yes, we can understand you are a victim, I'm a victim, so that we can understand each other. Maybe even if we cannot forget, but at least forgive each other so that we can move forward. And only in transitional justice can you have such a scenario.
This points to the need to expand these efforts to ease the pain and help residents of the Northeast reverse the psychological and emotional effect of insurgency.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, says the Nigerian Army will continue to act professionally in discharging its constitutional mandate of securing the country's territorial integrity. According to him, this will involve training and retraining of military personnel to ensure that they are abreast of the emerging trends on military operations in line with global best practices. He was speaking to journalists shortly after declaring open a 3-day capacity building workshop on protocol and liaison duties in Abuja.
Training is key to everyone now, particularly for the military that has ways of doing everything. And now so we take training very, very seriously as one of my cardinal pillars of my philosophy of command training, because it's when you train that you know. Everything has ways of being done, more so in the military. And that's why this center continues to host all or most of our training activities commensurate to this level. There are other training activities that are held in other places, but others are also held here. And that's what we are here to do. And now training in all aspects of our military life, I give it prime of place. And now we continue to explore areas of improvement in all our operations, in all our activities, all of them, whether they are operations, whether they are whatever it is, including protocol that we have now come here to rub minds and improve and entrench so that we have a more standardized way of doing things in line with best practices.
As part of measures towards strengthening activities of the Niger Police, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Al-Kalibaba, today met with some former Inspectors General of Police in Abuja. The meeting, which held behind closed doors at the headquarters of the Police Service Commission, also had in attendance the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Mr. Solomon Arase. At the end of the meeting, the IGP Usman Al-Kalibaba and the former IGP, Mr. Sunday Hinderu, said they met to review the performance of the force for better policing of the nation.
We think the problems that we are having in the country, both political, social, and even economic, are passing phases for the Nigerian police force. And although the international community may ask their nationals to withdraw, but we in this country have a way of solving our problem. So we have deliberated, and there is very assuring hope for the society in respect of performance and direction of the police force.
We have spoken greatly on how to continuously meet and discuss contemporary issues affecting law enforcement in Nigeria. Crime prevention and control is an issue that is very, very dynamic and requires dynamic approach. So there is hope at the end of the tunnel, like my Oga said. We'll continue to discuss, synergize, and cooperate with everybody that will also support us in this.
And that wraps it up from Abuja. Back to Lagos now with Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Terry Ikumi. In Benue, the state government has suspended the enforcement of the Open Grazing Prohibition and Ranches Establishment Law of 2017 for a period of 2 weeks to allow all herders with livestock within Benue territory to exit. Governor Samuel Ortom stated this after a State Security Council meeting which reviewed the situation in the wake of the latest killings in the state as the president's directive to security agencies to ramp up surveillance in the troubled areas. Mr. Ortom says the suspension is to show good faith to all those who claim to have come into the state without the knowledge of a law prohibiting open grazing. Time now for some business news with Anne Waldo.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. Hello and welcome to Business News. African carriers have suffered a total loss of about $3.5 billion over the past 3 years. The deficit, the International Air Transport Association says, is set to persist due to high fuel costs and taxes. According to IATA, the industry in Africa last made money in 2010 with another loss of $213 million anticipated this year. Meanwhile, the continent accounts for just 2.1% of air transport activity, despite being home to about 18% of the world population. And outside Nigeria, Ghana's inflation rate fell more than expected in the month of March on a sharp drop in food and fuel prices. And according to Ghana's Statistical Service, the annual inflation slowed for a third straight month to 35% from 52.8% in February, beating analysts' expectation. The agency adds that headline inflation is likely to continue the downswing due to strengthening of the country's local currency. Meanwhile, in the United States, the annual inflation fell more than expected in the month of March to 5%, down from full percentage points from 6% in the month of February. And that's the lowest level it has done in nearly 2 years. However, core CPI, which strips out volatile energy and the food cost, rose by 5.6% year on year, suggesting that price pressures from some goods and services are still elevated. The latest inflation data will determine the Fed's move at the next policy meeting in the month of May. Well, the equities market made a rebound today. Let's hear the details from Will Ebung.
Welcome to the stock market report. It appears investors have taken a pause on bleeding the NGX and positive sentiments are beginning to return to the equities markets. It's not much action on the all-share index, but the green closed all the same, although flat at 0.00%. And this is thanks to some stocks in the consumer goods counter that lifted that index up 0.19%. We saw Unilever and International Breweries doing their thing there. Now let's take a look at today's activity. Massive drop From what was recorded yesterday, a possible sign of easing and sell pressure. We saw volume at 255 million units, valued at 1.78 billion naira, and all transacted in 3,890 deals. Now, a look at the stocks that had some price action today. Skyway Aviation Company, topped that gainers chart, followed closely by Associated Bus, which jumped 9.68% today. It's closed at 34 kobo. It's not a bad outing today at the NGX, considering companies are rolling out dividends. And that's the stock market report. I'm Will Ibong. It's back to you.
That's business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Ayotunde will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thank you, Anne. United States President Joe Biden is in Belfast for a 3-day visit to Northern Ireland. He's set to mark the 25th anniversary of Northern Ireland's 1998 peace deal, also known as the Good Friday Agreement, that helped end 30 years of violent conflict that left more than 3,500 people dead. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US President Joe Biden says he hopes Northern Ireland parties will return to power sharing soon in a speech hailing 25 years of peace. Mr. Biden, who earlier met the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, is in Belfast on a 4-day visit to Northern Ireland and the Republic. His visit marks the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, a peace deal which helped end 30 years of violent conflict in Northern Ireland. Addressing a small audience in Belfast, he says protecting peace in Northern Ireland is something that brings America together.
Supporting the people of Northern Ireland, protecting the peace, preserving the Belfast Good Friday Agreement is a priority for Democrats and Republicans alike in the United States, and that is unusual today, because we've been very divided on our parties. This is something that brings Washington together. It brings America together.
Body cam footage released by the Louisville Police Department shows the moment Officer Corey Galloway engaged with a shooter, killing him.
God, don't have an angle.
At least 5 people were killed and several more injured when a gunman entered Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky. Another officer who responded to the shooting is in a critical condition. Meanwhile, Tennessee's Republican governor has signed an executive order to strengthen background checks for the purchase of guns and has urged lawmakers to pass legislation tightening gun laws. Governor Bill Lee's order comes in the wake of the Nashville school shooting that left 6 people, including 3 children, dead last month. The state has some of the most lax gun laws in the United States. Italian ministers have called a 6-month state of emergency in response to a rise in migrant numbers crossing the Mediterranean from North Africa. The decision frees up €5 million in funding and coincides with the arrival of 3,000 migrants in just 3 days. A number of boats have landed on the Italian island of Lampedusa, and the Coast Guard has rescued some 2,000 people since Friday. Migrant arrivals in Italy have risen sharply compared with the same period last year, despite efforts by Italy's right-wing coalition government to clamp down on irregular migration. Police have tackled and detained a protester running towards the French President Emmanuel Macron as he arrived at the University of Amsterdam's science campus. Footage posted on social media shows a person running towards Macron as he exits a vehicle and greets people. The police tackled the individual and pinned him to the ground. This is the second time the president has been targeted by protesters during his 2-day state visit to the Netherlands. The United Nations chief says Somalia is suffering from the impact of a climate crisis that it has done almost nothing to create. Visiting the country where a drought has killed 43,000 people last year, Antonio Guterres said some 8.3 million Somalis, almost half of the population, require urgent humanitarian assistance. At a camp in Baidoa in southwest Somalia for people displaced by the drought and fighting between al-Shabaab, Guterres said some 1.4 million Somalis had been displaced.
Poor and vulnerable communities are pushed by the drought to the brink of starvation. and the situation can get worse. Between now and June, 6.5 million Somalis are expecting to face high levels of acute food insecurity. So the risk of famine is still looming.
And the actor Jeremy Renner has returned to the red carpet in his first public appearance since a nearly fatal snowplow accident a few months ago. The Marvel actor strolled the red carpet to welcome his new Disney Plus series, Renovations, where he strips his personal fleet of huge vehicles and transforms them to meet the needs of communities. Renner's longtime friend and co-host and one of the executive producers, Rory Milliken, says it's been remarkable to see Renner bounce back only a few months separated from his frightening accident.
Thankful, grateful, you know, I mean, he was in terrible shape, but to see him bounce back like this, to see his manifesting what he talks about, set a goal, don't give up on it.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Welcome to Sports News. Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag says Marcus Rashford is disappointed with his latest injury, but confirmed that he's already taken a few steps towards a comeback. The 25-year-old limped off in the 80th minute during the United's 2-0 win over Everton at Old Trafford and will miss the first leg of their Europa League quarter-final clash against Sevilla on Thursday night. And in other Champions League story, Karim Benzema and Marcos Asensio have given Real Madrid a 2-0 advantage in the first leg of the UEFA Champions League quarter-final against Chelsea, as you can see from my screen right here. Benzema's goal came in the 21st minute before Chelsea were reduced to 10 men after Ben Chilwell got a straight red card in the 59th minute, and Asensio put the game to bed in his 74th minute strike. In other quarterfinals matches, Napoli struggled against AC Milan with a lone goal right there, beating them at the end of that exercise, just with 10 men. In other stories now, Barcelona remain interested in signing Lyon forward Ada Hegerberg, despite 2 rejected bids by the French club in the last 12 months. Barca tried to sign the Norway striker in the summer, but the deal could not be struck for the former Ballon d'Or winner, who is believed to be the highest paid player in women's football. And in tennis, Dani Medvedev cruised through his first match of the year on clay, defeating Lorenzo Sonego 6-3, 6-2 at the Monte Carlo Masters. Medvedev broke the Sonego at the first attempt and then tweaked twice more in the second set to reel off his 25th win in his past last 26 tour level matches. He will face Alexander Zverev in the last 16 for the first time on clay.
Septième match, Medvedev. 2 manches à 0, 6-3, 6-2, 6-3, 6-2.
That's it on Sport Time. Jeffrey is on his back, so I tune in for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The lawyers to the PDP presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, today asked the Code of Conduct Bureau to stop investigation into the petition brought against Mr. Abubakar by the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo. Governor Doye Diri and Senator Samuel Anyang have emerged as PDP flag bearers in Bayelsa and Edo States ahead of the November governorship elections. A 7-story building under construction collapsed in Banana Island area of Lagos. A state government said few people injured, but no fatalities in the disaster.